Welcome everyone to the Circle Debate Podcast. I'm the host of Devious One Ivan C. here alongside with my brothers, and I have the Mad Hatter himself, Mr. MGC. Now you're Indiana Jones or what? Oh my God!
I don't got my web, so.
I also have the one and only CK1. That is Chris Kennedy. And today, this evening, ladies and gentlemen, who is joining us is a very honorary guest. He is from a filmmaker. He has his own film production, now transitioning into the pro wrestling world. He is the CEO, founder of Global Syndicate Wrestling, and will be making their debut next month on February 20th, based out of New Jersey, and that is the CEO and founder of the man himself, Mr. Brandon Ascari. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate it very much. So I'm going to go ahead and start off the question myself before the others do. So I'm going to go ahead and ask, before transitioning into professional wrestling, tell us a story about filmmaking. How did you how was your involvement in filmmaking began, and how did the journey begin in the film industry?
It's actually, I started in wrestling. When I was 12 years old, I was watching Shawn Michaels, and I wanted to be a professional wrestler. I actually was playing a children's card game at the time called Yu-Gi-Oh! I used to go to tournaments all the time.
We're all the same age then. We
Yes.
were all children during Yu-Gi-Oh! Era.
Yep, and believe it or not, the judge at one of the tournaments was actually a professional wrestler, and I didn't know it at the time. And one day we're playing, and he comes in with a heavyweight championship belt from a company called Body Slam Wrestling Organization. And that was right at the exact time, like maybe within a month after I was like, I really want to be a wrestler. So he's like, oh, really? All right, come on, kid, let's go and, hang out at the show. So I got to, run the clothes. I got to ring the bell, stuff like that. Nothing crazy, but I got to hang out with the boys. And when I was 14, the owner of the company, Richie Rotten, took me into the ring, said, all right, I'm going to teach you how to take your first bump. And it was kind of like love at first sight from there. Fast forward 3 years later, I have a big shoulder injury. I'm filming a movie. Believe it or not, I started doing like stunt work on the side. And during that time, I started to get more into film production. And from my wrestling background, a buddy asked me if I could come on and be in one of his films. Wanted me to come on and do some weird like Stone Cold versus The Rock like film. And so we did it for his school project, and I fell in love with it. I bought a camera, and then that's how I got into film.
Ah, okay, I see. Awesome.
So going from, wrestling fan to, I have your IMDb page pulled up right here because I like to be resourceful with my information.
Mm-hmm.
Almost every credit I see you've done basically every job within that film. So I think you write, edit, direct, star in almost everything you've done. That's pretty accurate, right?
Yeah, so as far as films that I've created myself, I pretty much jack of all trades. When it comes to like my film production company, most of those credits are not on there because there are a lot of for-hire work. But most of my personal films are what you'll find on IMDb, stuff that I've created myself.
Awesome. That segues into what I found out recently, that with the specifically, I'm going to go into like the Vince McMahon thought process of how he writes his show and how that applies to what your ideas are for your program. He, from what I heard, it's not a bad idea, but he likes to get, I guess, successful fiction writers, but he wants them to specifically have no experience in pro wrestling. He wants people who have never even heard of The Rock, which is, you'd be living under a rock, obviously.
Funny rock, by the way.
He's big enough. He could fit a small family underneath his biceps, which can be a detriment and a good thing, depending on who you ask or what angle whoever the writer is responsible for. You having a wrestling background and now a writing background, do you think that that's going to help? Obviously, I think it will. You are now running your own promotion. Storylines, having your finger on the pulse on what fans want. Do you think that that's essentially a blueprint for a better product? Or do you think having a naivety about something and coming in with a resume of just pure writing might create more interesting storylines?
That's a great question. I think there's something to be said for both avenues. In my opinion, from my understanding and what I've seen in wrestling, which is quite a bit, I think being completely naive to the product is probably a detriment. I think ultimately, at the end of the day, there is a similarity between filmmaking and professional wrestling. It was why the transition away and back to has been easy for me, because I think at the end of the day, when it comes to writing, it all boils down to story. One of the most successful things about film that I learned that I think is going to help me as a writer, well, not really a writer, but a booker for GSW, is the subtleties. And I think that that's something that has been lost for a while in wrestling, is just those little nuances that you can do, like just thinking about how you can make something matter, for instance. Like, you know, if you're somebody who wants to show off, you know, their body or something, you got a six-pack or whatever, what about just adding like make the audience wait a little while? Wait and make it part of your character. Go into the ring, and then the act of like undressing or something in front of the fans becomes part of the gimmick and helps, you know, sell it, instead of just, you know, giving it all away in the beginning as soon as you come out through the curtain. It's like, if I told you the end of the movie in the beginning, you're not going to go through and watch it. But if we build up to that point, then it actually matters to the fans. So I think certain things that I've learned in film are going to help, but I think if I didn't have any knowledge of wrestling or what fans react to, then I also probably wouldn't be successful either.
Are you sitting right now, like, you said you were a booker for your company. Are you employing specific writers, or have you yet to do that? Or do you plan on writing a lot of whatever angles you may have planned? And if you are you sitting on just so many ideas? You're just like, man, I can't wait to flesh this idea out.
It's amazing in how many places ideas hit you. You know, as everybody always says, oh, I get my best ideas in the shower. I'm like, I get my best ideas everywhere, just randomly. And it always happens where I can't write things down. Like if I'm driving, I'm like, I got a great idea. And then an hour later, I finally get there. I'm like, what was that idea again? But no, basically, we're currently a team of 3. I am a co-owner, co-founder. My partner wants to remain anonymous. He's also involved.
It's not you. It's not you.
It's not me. I'm kidding. Sorry.
Should have been.
So, yeah, it's a 50-50. And then we also have a friend of mine that I've known for a while who's big in wrestling, also runs some social media pages, who is helping out as well with our social media and with booking. So between the 3 of us, it's usually like almost a daily, you know, 3-way chat where we're going through for hours and hours, just running through ideas. And usually every time we get on the phone, it costs more money and something better happens. So that's always a good thing.
Right. There you go.
And are there people you're learning from in the story writing process as far as a pro wrestling application, or you just kind of like what you want to see is what you're going to write?
I mean, I think one of the benefits to being involved with BWO and a couple of the other companies at such a young age is I got to see kind of the behind the scenes of wrestling for several years. Another thing is we've reached out to a bunch of talent to help us, you know, longtime veterans in the business. For instance, Jazz, she is helping us craft our women's division and helping us work through storylines and working with talent and stuff like that. And we are talking to a couple of other people. I won't mention names because we haven't signed them yet. But we are reaching out to veterans in the industry to get their input from what they've experienced, just to help us make the best product we can.
Cool. That's awesome. We haven't had a writer on, so I had so many questions for someone who was kind of in that department. So thank you.
Well, somebody's coming from like maybe either like a second AD or second AD background or a production assistant background. Like sure they're wrestling fans, but they don't actually have any experience like working wrestling events. Would you turn that person away just for their lack of like experience working wrestling events? You know, on that, like of course, like you know, because Chris was talking about people who like don't know anything about wrestling, like Vince hiring people, but like so you're just like a fan of it, but you just don't know how like to run like how the ins and outs of running a wrestling event are.
Literally Freddie Prinze Jr. You were talking about Freddie Prinze Jr.
There you go. Yeah,
he was a super fan who I think tweeted Vince and he hired him on the spot because he's Freddie Prinze Jr.
I would say, if we're talking about someone with absolutely zero wrestling experience, as a fan, I like to know a fan's input. So for instance, like some of my closest friends that I trust with some things that we're planning on doing, some of my partner's closest friends that he trusts that are just fans, they don't have any experience in wrestling. We do like to have conversations with them privately and bounce ideas just to see, because most importantly is how the fans are going to receive the product. So for us, it is a couple of people that we can trust to be with us. We like to bounce ideas. But in terms of hiring somebody to be in a writing position, I don't think so.
But just and well, like other than, and I wasn't just specifically to writing, just like any of the like cameraman at the shows or boom mic operator, you know, just all the all the usual jobs that, because there's some crossovers between, like, you know, I guess running like local TV or any type of like recorded video programming, lighting, just sound, any of that, you know, stuff.
Right. I mean, for us, currently my job is really to oversee everything that has to do with production. For our production team, I've brought on some people that I work with in film production to help out, because we are doing the live stream, which is a bigger undertaking than just taping it. A couple camera operators that I've worked with, sound people, stuff like that. In terms of hiring somebody who works, like taking a PA and having them as a camera operator, I usually would be okay with that, because a lot of people in the film industry, their official credits are going to be as PA or whatever, and they probably do their own stuff. And to me, it just boils down to, if you could show me an example of what you can do, then I'm more than happy to, you know, everything is based off of a reel. The resume doesn't matter.
Right. So like with an experienced cameraman who may not be familiar with the wrestling product, basically he can just get stage direction, know where to be, but he generally, I mean, as long as he knows how to operate the camera professionally, he can be directed for sure.
Yep. I actually started doing some camera work for another independent promotion recently, which also served as getting experience for our show. And I think one of the big things that is missed with camera people that aren't really familiar with wrestling is knowing what expressions to catch at what time. Because I think a lost art on basically anything that's not like one of the top tier promotions is actually like when somebody gets hurt, seeing the expression on their face. That, you know, something that you think is common. Okay, yeah, somebody's hurt, let me see their expression. The fans will connect. But a lot of people just like, it's, for a lot of camera people, I think it's just so much happening at one time. And since they really can't, they don't understand the flow of a match, it doesn't work in there. Like for me, for the most part, I could usually get an idea of what the next move is going to be from what they're doing so far. So for me, I'm able to kind of go with the flow and predict it. And I think a lot of people miss out on that opportunity.
And the other thing I wondered, I guess, like, because you're talking about just the expressions, there's also like, other than just the wrestlers, of course, you have like the advocate managers, the people doing the like whoever's making a run in, whatever guest in the audience, like, oh, so and so wrestler's girlfriend, he's bleeding to death, we got to get her fit, like, you know, like she's so worried about him, and then, you know, and then the cameraman's got to know who that girlfriend is in the audience, you know, to like point that camera towards.
I could be wrong with the lingo, but is it called the teleplay when there's directions that are pre-scripted for the camera angles? Is that, am I close?
Yeah.
When the cameraman needs to know when to turn left, when to pan in, and when to, like, is that all obviously well rehearsed, right? For a live show like that.
For most, it's nowhere near that plan, unless it's like major budget or something, or
right.
You know, obviously 1,000 times rehearsed, which probably more in like the WWE realm. But at least for like the independent, more independent side of things, live stream, you kind of just have to go with the flow. So it's in the moment, you hear the reaction or something like, oh, hey, it's so and so's girl. Well, if that's an important thing, then it would have been discussed in advance. If that's something that they needed to capture, for instance, this manager is going to do this, or this person's reaction needs to be caught in the audience. Okay, so we don't know when, we kind of just wait for a cue and then boom, all right, shoot over there. Otherwise, like for a lot of the smaller scale indie shows, it's just, I don't know what's happening. So I just follow what's going on, and, you know, we get what we can get.
Nice.
Absolutely. So, you know, you said you were transitioning to pro wrestling and then go into film industry, now transitioning back into professional wrestling, running your own company now. So how did the idea come about? How did the name idea come about? And
I love the name.
And then also just knowing as well, like you could, give us knowledge of how pretty much the independent promotion in New Jersey, like how is it, the environment, and just if you could talk us through it, how it all began, and the idea and the name.
Sure. So, like most great ideas, the guy who's my partner and I, we just one day after a comedy show that I was producing for an actor friend, we're at the bar, we had a few drinks, and then we just start coming up with all these crazy ideas. He happens to be a person that I was training with like 10 years ago when I was in wrestling. So we just start talking. There were two things that we wanted to do. We wanted to go to Japan together to see the Tokyo Dome live, and we wanted to start a wrestling company. And first we did the Tokyo Dome last year, right before the pandemic. And then right after, thank you. And then right after that, we were like, maybe it's not a bad idea to start a wrestling company. Why not? Pandemic.
Did you see a pro wrestling event in Japan?
Did we what?
Did you see a pro wrestling event when you were in Japan at the Dome?
Yeah, we went to see Wrestle Kingdom.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Sorry, I might have.
Yeah, we saw Wrestle Kingdom last year. Yep. No, it was awesome. It was a great experience. But for me, we decided after that, we were debating about if we were going to wait until after, the pandemic was over to start, or if we should do it in the middle. And my idea, I guess, from the film background as well, if you start at the absolute worst thing that could probably happen to a wrestling company is completely no fans, basically most of your sources of income are shot, and you could still survive, then you could weather any storm. So the idea was, all right, you know what, instead of waiting until 2022, let's just do it and see what happens. As far as the name is concerned, originally we were thinking Global Wrestling Syndicate, GWS. And one of my clients that I do film production for, they run a big YouTube kids channel, and they're huge wrestling fans from like the 90s. Lo and behold, I didn't know that in the beginning. And the thing they told me was, no, GWS is not chantable. You need a chantable name. They're like, what if it was GS Dub? And I'm like, Global Syndicate Wrestling? I mean, it doesn't, like, to me, the words don't sound as good as Global Wrestling Syndicate, but the chantability factor, I was like, yeah, no, that's worth it. So that's how we switched it to Global Syndicate Wrestling.
Yeah, I love it. I love the vibe. The logo itself, I'm just looking at your banner with the 4 wrestlers you have featured.
Mm-hmm.
It looks less like a pro wrestling entertainment company and more, I would say, just like MMA company, I guess you would say. It looks
right.
a little bit more sports than less sports entertainment. So I'm totally digging that vibe. So
that was, if you guys looked into kind of like what our theme is we want to stick more with that 80s, 90s, all Japan, Smoky Mountain wrestling, like the Kings Road style, which is what I fell in love with wrestling.
Giant Baba.
Yes, Giant Baba influence. So for us, that was, we wanted to identify ourselves as a sports company, even though we are also obviously entertainment. And to answer about the scene in New Jersey, historically speaking, Jersey's had a huge wrestling hub, from Asbury Park to North Jersey, JAPW, Monster Factory. We've had all kinds of stuff here. Dragon Gate, when they first came over, was in New Jersey. The Rahway Rec Center's famous. I was there at their first show. I was there at Evolve's first show. It was awesome. Ibushi Rick was great. But so for us, the wrestling scene has decreased a lot in New Jersey since those heydays of like 2008 to 2012-ish. So for us, it's kind of like we want to try and resurge it a little bit and see if we can bring it back. I mean, our first show was maybe 20 minutes outside of Philly, and I'm sure the people from the old ECW days are probably still there and probably waiting for some awesome product to come in. So let's see if we can give it to them and give it to the world. And, right now with the COVID restrictions, we're technically allowed to have a 25% capacity, but it literally changes day by day. So there's a good chance still that we're not going to be allowed to have a crowd. And from what we've seen so far, a lot of people are afraid that it's going in that direction. So we may just go with the safety route and not have fans at all.
What's one thing I'm kind of wondering, because I overheard that HAMMERSTONE, is going to do events with you guys, or has. Is there any kind of relationship with MLW or Pro Wrestling Noah, since you have like Hammerstone, I guess, is somewhat part of your roster.
Yeah, I mean, Hammerstone's booked for our first show. He's going to be working with us, hopefully, for as long as we can have him for. Same with everybody that we have booked. And we don't have a relationship specifically with MLW, but I believe 95% of their rosters are still technically free agents. I think the only one that I know of that's full-time and exclusive, I think, was Jacob Fatu.
Yes.
And I think just their relationship with GCW, they let him wrestle over there a couple of times. So Hammerstone was not exclusive to us. I don't think he has a relationship with Noah. We have had talks with All Japan Pro Wrestling. We've been speaking with Tajiri, and when COVID does let up, we are potentially going to have a talent exchange with them.
Yeah,
and
I think another company mentioned they were going to get Tajiri also, and that same exact thing happened to them.
Oh, really?
Was it Mahon in just Florida? It said he was like, oh my God, I have Tajiri booked. And then like the next day, they're like, all flights were canceled.
Oh, I don't know.
I feel like it was either Tajiri or someone else from Japan that he was like, dude, the day after he booked it, every airplane just canceled flights. He was like, fuck, I'm out like $500 on this.
I have my fingers crossed that you get Kento Miyahara. Like,
we're also trying for Suwama. That's one of our big ones that we asked about. And Doering, he's a huge connection with All Japan as well, 2-time Triple Crown champion. We haven't announced it yet, but, you know, I always like to give an exclusive when I go on podcasts. We did book Michael Elgin.
Heard it here first.
Yes, yep. He's going to be one of our contacts to try and get us in touch with Noah. So, you know, maybe we could pull some dream matches together.
Hopefully. I mean, I'm seeing like what you booked so far. I mean, you have Lindsay Snow, you have Shawgirl, you have Joe Doring. I mean, you have Gabby Ortiz, Vicious Vicky. You have a heck of a roster. You have a card coming up. So how's your relationship with? Well, you said Jazz was the one that kind of assist you on the bookings on the women's side. On the men's side, like how's your relationship with you meeting them and booking them? How did that transition come into fruition?
Well, sadly, we haven't gotten to meet any of them in person yet.
Right.
Emails, phone calls, occasional phone calls. Most of it's been emails, Instagram, DMs, texts, stuff like that. And so far, it's been a wonderful experience. I found it, to me, this is kind of like a piece of cake when it comes to booking talent and stuff like that. I'm used to it with film production. It's literally, for me, the same steps as, you know, as a director, casting director. You put out an ad or you reach out to somebody, they apply, you discuss rate, you maybe negotiate a little bit, boom, sign the agreement, and there you go. So it's pretty much the same thing in that regard, and it's been, you know, no different of an experience. For me, it's been a pleasure to talk to these people. As far as booking goes for me, I book as a fan. These are matches that I myself want to see, so I feel like that excitement hopefully will translate to the people that are watching. It's the same thing to me in film production, where if you're excited about your film, if you love the story, then the audience is going to feed off of that. So I wanted to create a product that I would be excited about, that hopefully other people will be excited about.
Awesome.
It sounds there's nothing you're doing right now that you just can't be marking out for within your own head. Like, you are literally doing everything it sounds like you grew up wanting to do, from making the films that are non-pro wrestling related to starting your own company to making the calls yourself to booking everything. Is there a job you aren't doing right now that you would like to do within your own company? And would you be an on-screen personality within your within Global Syndicate? Like, would you love to be a manager and just wear that hat someday, or are you just going to be the man behind the scenes?
I mean,
do you still train, and do you see that being a path you might take still if you have the time, because you're doing literally 20 things?
I do. My whole life, I've always done 20 things. So for me, it's like, yeah, it's always the same. I definitely would love to wrestle. I wouldn't wrestle in my own company unless it was like some crazy storyline that somebody else suggested. I don't believe in booking yourself. Somebody else would have to do that for me. I don't know necessarily if I would really wrestle. I'm open to it. I do occasionally meet up with my buddy and we, you know, bump around in a ring. So it's not completely out of the realm of possibility, but I don't think that people will be seeing that in GSW. And outside of that, no, I am pretty much doing everything that I would want to do. So for me,
Right, so you don't see yourself being an on-camera personality within, because you would count that as booking yourself technically, even if it was like just an interview or commentator, or even just
like it maybe like come out as the the owner of the company and
authority figure.
right, kind of like what Tony Khan does. Like, we know who he is, but he doesn't show up that much.
yeah, and occasionally, like if that were the case, I would do it in a way where it's like, okay, if he comes out, he's announcing some epic match or some major event that's happening, and that's kind of it. Like
Okay.
I don't see myself getting involved in storylines. So for me, everything has to have a reason. If somebody hears like my music or something and I come out, it's, oh, okay, it's Brandon coming out to tell us something freaking awesome's happening, and that's pretty much it.
I love that, because that segues into a question I've been waiting to ask about the longevity of a storyline at its inception. Is I obviously know that when you have fans reacting to a storyline, you do have to kind of go with the flow, and you may have to change what you intended at the beginning towards the end. With your experience in either other promoters or writing for your own company, do a lot of storylines have an end goal, or is it strictly show by show? Is it, we don't know where this character is going to end, or the conflict resolution? Or is it, let's just take it day by day, or let's end up here at the end of it no matter what happens?
I mean, if you're asking from like a wrestling promoter perspective, I have not had that experience yet, so I can't tell you for sure how like other feds do it.
Okay.
I can tell you that with what we're planning on, we have relatively long-term plans figured out for a lot of our talent, like with, I would say, a year or so or more.
Nice. That's a lot of the answer right there.
Which to me is important. It goes back to filmmaking. I like to know where things are going, so that way I can build to them appropriately. Then on the other side, which I also made very clear that I wanted to be considerate of, is like you take late 90s ECW, what Heyman was going through, where literally every 2 seconds he would make a new star. I don't know how he made stars so quickly, but you make a new star, boom, they get taken away. Boom, they get taken away. All right, you make another one. All right, WWE took him. Make another one. WCW took him. You make another, they go to Japan. So the idea was, we have the plan, then we have the backup plan, and just if all things go wrong, then we still have this that we can go with. You can never have too much planning, but at the same time, too much planning doesn't work in your favor. So we like to just have ideas, but I don't like to lock anything in stone, because we need to be able to adapt on the fly.
Right. Yeah.
Agreed.
I love that. A lot of storylines that I see on TV right now from a lot of companies, when they conclude, I'm just like, were they thinking of this at the end of that story when they thought of this storyline? Were they thinking of it earlier?
Exactly.
There's one company where, there's like one company where I don't know why the storyline went there and thought of this at the beginning. And then there's another company where I'm like, they fill a storyline the moment it starts to not do well. And I don't know what I appreciate, whether it's a bad idea they stop quick, or a bad idea that they try to evolve into a better idea. So I'm very interested to see where you can take things with your experience in the writing, having that experience, and then being a fan, and now your own storyline writer.
The way I was taught in film school was very simple. They said, you ever start writing a letter and you don't think about what you're writing, you just totally wing it, and then you get 3 sentences in and you have no idea where to go with it. So you just, if you don't think about it at all, like, oh, dear mom, blah, 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 blah. If you don't at least think of that, then you start the thing and you're like, how do I finish that sentence? So we want to have an idea of where things are going, but still be flexible enough to adapt. I'll tell you, the best example I could think of a story that I really enjoyed was Wrestle Kingdom 15 this year, when they tied up the Ascari and Okada.
Yes.
The way that they built up where he separated from the Rainmaker. And he didn't want to do that for so long. And all right, he had the other finish, which nobody was a huge fan of him using that. And then it took Ospreay, one of his best friends, to face him in a match. He hits him with the Rainmaker, then boom, it brings it right back out of him. I thought that was one of the best subtle storylines that I've seen in a long time. And it didn't take much. It was just that little bit, and that was just, it was perfect.
I agree 100%. That was a great storytelling match. I loved it. So,
I even like Ospreay, like people used to not like Ospreay's mic skills, and now we saw him become like a Ric Flair-esque type character, the Commonwealth Kingpin. So
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah. He specifically took, I think, time off from the ring to do, I don't know if he went to a school for that, but he definitely was like, I'm good enough in the ring to where I can take a couple weeks off and get this mic thing down and get my levels equal. And it absolutely paid off.
Yeah, and it's so important. That's one thing that I can't emphasize enough with a lot of independent talent that I've seen is that they don't focus on character. They don't focus on the mic work and the in-ring work. What I decided that we were going to do is offer all of our workers acting classes. So I have a lot of connections with acting instructors and teachers. And I just said to everybody, I'm like, look, I cut a deal with them. I can give you one class a month. Everybody can Zoom in, and all it is 2 hours. You sit there, they bounce ideas with you on your character. They give you improv lessons because I don't want to script out every word that you're going to say when you go up there because then it sounds forced. I just want you to do improv exercises. You're going to take that with the instructor and then just bounce ideas on your character. And I think that's going to be something, even if they don't stay with us, I want to help them because they're helping us. So we set them up for as best as we can, and hopefully we get something amazing out of it.
That's awesome. That's really awesome that you're offering that.
You have a very refreshing take on what could be best for business. So from a fan point of view, I appreciate that. Definitely. It's very,
I don't mean
it's not very, your ego is set aside when it comes to how good you want the product to be. You're not say what I say, when I say, how I say it, do what I do type of booker, which is going to,
I gotta say, I don't mean to kiss your ass completely, Brandon, but
that is not what I was doing.
No, me. I'm talking about what I'm about to say, Chris. Basically, if you've noticed, like all the biggest stars in the world, like Hulk Hogan, The Rock, John Cena, and Chris Jericho, I'll include him in there, and the next big one, MJF, you'll notice that's all like they're funny, they've got character and all that stuff, and what they do translates over into movies and Hollywood and film and acting. I like this ass kissing statement I'm about to say. I think your promotion will probably, because you're talking about Paul Heyman creating stars, I think your promotion has the potential to make the most amount of stars just for offering those acting classes out of it. Because so much of that, like the thing I always tell myself whenever I watch Chris Jericho is like, why isn't this guy the main star of more movies? And now Chris Jericho is working with Kevin Smith in some more movies coming up. Mm-hmm. So I really think I'm gonna keep my eyes on you guys.
Yeah, him and Kevin Smith wrote that TV show that's on Comedy Central where he's like a really shitty undercover cop.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
I think Kevin Smith maybe wrote some episodes, but that show is fantastic.
Didn't Jericho have like a web series too for a little while?
Yeah, he did.
Is that the one I'm talking about that was played on Comedy Central where he's like a derelict undercover cop and he's just like really bad?
He wasn't a cop in that series. He's just like a struggling
actor. Something like that.
Okay. Well, the cop one is one
like wrestling calls and get like acting gigs, and he's like, "But I'm Chris Jericho or whatever."
Yeah.
Don't you know who I am? No, you're in Hollywood. Get out of here.
I need to watch that.
Yeah, it was good.
Definitely. I commend you and I praise you to give me the first promotion to actually offer that, especially to help current talents that are learning to develop their mic skills, their promo skills, just their character skills. So I commend you. Kudos for you for offering that to them, and hopefully whoever sees this and if they work with your promotion, I would take advantage of that, and I would definitely. I mean, that's a very good development right there. So in the promotion, you're gonna be having titles, right? So I know that the main event is HAMMERSTONE and Joe Dory. That's one of the main events. To be correct if I'm wrong. So that's gonna be the first championship you're gonna be having, right? The GSW World Title. Is that correct?
The GSW World Championship, and that's Joe Doering versus HAMMERSTONE.
Perfect. I'm looking forward to seeing that. Are you planning to actually add more belts to it, like a women's side one and a tag one? I don't know if you're going to add like a mid-card, like a IC or US television type of thing. So what are your plans adding like a mid-card title and,
They are going to – we pretty much plan to add all of them at some point. We just want to, as we grow, add more to it. So we don't want to overdo it in the beginning, have, 10 different title belts. But we definitely want a women's world championship. We definitely want a mid-card belt, a lower card belt. We want world tag titles, all that stuff. We actually are working on a separate, not like a separate brand, but a free YouTube show that we're going to do probably bi-weekly that's coming after Inception with all the younger guys, I guess similar to like an AEW Dark or something like that. And the sole purpose of it is we're trying to start what we call the GSW Wrestler Relief Fund. So we're using the younger guys to work on this show. It'll have its own championship, the Next Gen Championship. And that is going to be its own little thing. We're calling it High Voltage. And there it's going to be bi-weekly YouTube shows, accessible also on our app for free. And that show, the purpose of it is to fundraise for the Wrestler Relief Fund to help, you know, wrestlers and their families that are in need.
That's awesome. That's really, really awesome. Very creative. Wow, I didn't know.
Yeah, there's a video up. I think you have like a 2-minute promo on that exact subject on your YouTube channel.
On the, yeah, I think it's on.
If you like dress like an 80s weatherman, I don't know if that was on purpose. I'm sorry if I'm wrong. Was that what the vibe was?
Yeah, that was
Okay.
and that was the pitch, the fundraising video for the GoFundMe, because right now we don't have an official 501c3 nonprofit set up for it. So we're just doing a GoFundMe right now. Whatever we receive just goes out to people that can demonstrate a need to us, whether it's financial, it's medical, whatever it is. Just to give back, you know, to people who give their health and their well-being day in and day out. For us as entertainers, we want to give back to them as well.
Nice.
To let them know that we appreciate it.
Awesome, definitely, most definitely. So once the first show makes its debut on February 20th, what is it? Do you see your promotion in the future? Like I know you mentioned earlier, like working with All Japan, working with talent, exchanging talent. But in the States wise, are you also looking to also work within other independent promotions around your area, the East Coast, or here on the West Coast with us in California, or around the States? I mean, are you looking to develop that relationship with other independent promotions and maybe do a crossover, invasion one day, or I don't know if that's the idea.
Kind of the hot topic right now is everyone's invading everybody else.
Yes.
Very exciting time.
I saw somewhere on Facebook that like every company that's not WWE is trying to like band together to take down WWE. I don't even know if that's true, but
it's not gonna happen.
If they didn't officially say it, it's the vibe I'm picking up.
Yeah, that's what somebody posted on Facebook. I don't necessarily disagree with it. And we are open to it. We haven't had any specific discussions yet with any particular promotions. But like I mentioned briefly, we are actually developing an app. It's going to be a streaming app for the iPhone, the Android, and the computer, similar to Impact Plus, similar to IWTV, stuff like that. You can live stream on it. We have the web portion done. We're just waiting on the 2 phone apps, so it should be probably around the time that Inception happens, it should be ready to launch. And the idea with that is, of course, if there are wrestling companies that are interested in having their shows on our platform, that's totally fine with us, as well as doing, I'm open to have our champion defend the title on their show or them come on here and defend the title, similar to how, like, I guess New Japan does it with some other companies every once in a while.
Right.
So it's definitely something we're open to. An official conversation hasn't happened yet, but we are definitely open to it.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Awesome.
So the show is a little over a month away, and obviously limited amount of matches have been announced. Are you going to release the full card eventually all at once, or is it going to be are the slots even completely filled, or is it going to be as you book, you'll announce the card? And then what can we expect from the event itself? I guess the question would be like, what about it can we tune in that you think people are going to gravitate and relate to the most that they may not find in other promotions? Like, you've got something going on, a lot of companies don't. You have the acting going on, you're writing. Yeah, pretty much that's it.
I think, one thing that I've always believed since, as long as I can remember is that, specialization spells success. So for us, being that more Kings Road style approach, that's not very common in the U.S. So I think, at least to a U.S. fan base, it's going to be either you love it or you hate it, and that's totally fine. But I'd rather not just be another carbon copy of a different promotion or whatever and offer the same thing that everybody else is. So I'd rather take a more niche, we call it like a fine wine approach, and say, look, our focus is going to be the in-ring work. Of course, there's still characters. Of course, there's still storytelling. But we really want to focus on having the best quality in-ring performances that I hope that you'll find anywhere. So for us, that's probably going to be the standout. As far as talent goes, I think just from the names that have been announced already, it speaks for itself. We still have a few more that we haven't fully announced, and like Michael Elgin, he's another huge one that I mentioned. So we do have a lot of talent that's booked on the show. At least I think comparable to other startup indie feds, I think we're putting a pretty good foot forward as far as talent goes. And, you know, we hope that as we, you know, bring in more money, we're able to bring on even more talent.
Oh, I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it.
I mean, I can't imagine who you're from the names that I already see on the Instagram, which is I'm actually looking at your personal Instagram. I didn't go to the global one yet, but you have a lot of the announced matches and a lot of the wrestlers who may be appearing, like Gabby Ortiz and Lindsay Snow, which is going to be exciting.
Lindsay Snow, I will say, is debatable right now.
Okay.
She did get injured like 3 days after we signed her, and we don't know the full extent of her injury. I believe she has a knee injury that was just announced, so we're not sure yet if she's going to actually be able to make the show or not. But as far as we know, everybody else
Okay, all good. Yeah, there's always a TBA for shows, which is totally fair. I mean, that's just the name of the game right there. Yeah, man, I'm excited. And what I do hope is, you said that the Jersey laws right now, the red tape in every state fluctuates between what can and can't happen.
Yeah.
Have they gone up and down? And how soon before the show actually happens will you know for sure about the fans in the state, in the arena? Have they been like, you can do fans? Okay, no, you can't. Okay, do less fans. No, you can do more fans. And will you know hopefully at least weeks before the show, or could they cut that tape at the day of?
Well, I can just go off of what the governor has done in the past. Usually his announcements come out sometime in the week and they go into effect on Friday, which is the day before the show. So with it being on a Saturday, technically we could find out a day or two before the show. That's why, like I said, we're generally leaning towards no fans just to be on the safe side. It's a real technicality in Jersey. It's not as cut and dry. Like, I think Florida has a 50% capacity, and I don't believe that that's changed since it went back up. I'm not sure about other states, but specifically in Jersey, it's a really fine line because wrestling is one of those things that is on the cusp of sport or performance. Performances are technically allowed at a 25% capacity indoors still, and that never changed. But certain sports are completely fanless. So, and that changed within the last several weeks. So it depends. I will, without a doubt, make the argument that whichever side is the one that's allowed to have, I will play devil's advocate. Whatever side it is, they say, all right, sports are allowed, but performances are not. Well, we are a sport. And if they say performances are allowed and sports aren't, well, what do you think?
It's a live-action stunt show. It's a
I'm filming a movie. You know, it's going on TV.
I mean, literally, you are. It's a TV show. Yeah,
so,
man. If people are allowed to film TV shows.
Oh, man, definitely. So for your debut, coming up on February 20th, you're going to be using what live stream platform you're using? Is it Global? Was it FITE Globe? Is that what it's called? Or are you going to be using IWT TV or Title Match Network? What live stream platform are you planning to use for debuting for February 20th?
Sure. So our debut one is on FITE TV. It's currently there for anybody who wants to purchase it. It's GSW Inception. You can find it on FITE TV. It's been live for a couple weeks now. We did sign a 3-year deal with FITE Globe. They are not like a live stream platform. What FITE Globe is they kind of act as like a talent manager, similar for actors, where they represent us to other syndicators and things worldwide and try and get us like television deals and stuff like that. So they will, basically the conversation that's been had with them is that you need to have the first show before we can really get any deals for you, because they're going to want to see what you can do.
Right.
So once we have the first show, then they're going to take us and shop us around to all the different countries in the world and try and get us some global distribution for future shows and or the show that had already happened.
Okay, awesome. I love it, love it. So one more question I wanted to ask, just for you, like, you're a pro wrestling fan yourself. Which one has been by far the best match for you you've seen of 2020? Of just the last one, like which one?
Yeah.
Out of all promotions, which one?
What's your favorite 2020 match, brother?
I mean, I think it's actually an easier question than I'm making it sound. It was Go Shiozaki and Takashi Sugiura at Final Chronicle.
That's Matt right there. That's our boy. Yeah, he's all about that.
Shiozaki. Yeah, that's Noah's favorite son.
Yep.
Yes.
Definitely. And it's awesome to know that you're a Noah fan, and because a lot of the interviews, some do love Noah, some don't. Our brother here, Matt, he's our knowledgeable guy.
He's our international superstar for sure, because there's so much content. There's so much content out right now that we kind of have to divide up who's going to master what regions. So he's kind of the manager.
I thought like the next 3 months I'll just devote to watching Dragon Gate, because I'm mostly caught up with pro wrestling. Noah, it's crazy that they have on their color commentary team one of the biggest pop stars in Japan, Jurina Matsui, on commentary, and Kenta Kobashi at the same time. And her slapping, I think she slapped Masahiro Chono at like one of the yeah, I think it was something. They had some kind of angle going on. It's like you should get back in the ring or something like that. I don't know. It was something like that.
The first match that I ever saw that was a Japanese wrestling match that kind of started the descent into darkness for me was Akiyama versus Kobashi in 2004 at Noah for the title, and that was my first foray into pure Reisu. And then I just that was it. I pretty much like cold turkey quit watching anything in the US, and then just New Japan, All Japan back in the 90s, current product, even like a little bit of DDT and stuff like that. So and then rarely I would tune in and watch something over here, but for the most part I've been separated from it for a while.
They hire real manzai comedians for DDT, like guys that are on like big time television shows, like talk shows in Japan to appear on DDT. I was like, wait a minute, I recognize that guy.
Yeah, we're looking for a Japanese commentator to do we're not going to be able to have like 6 different languages live and give you the option to do that. That from a technical perspective on my end, the budget's not there to do it. We know how, it's just way too complicated for us.
Majida.
I would say if I was in a band with a gentleman who is now the ring announcer for New Japan. Is this correct, Matt?
Yes, he's one of them.
Yeah, I was like, if we're from LA, he's in LA. If he was over on the East Coast, bro, he would be at your door with a resume right now.
Yeah, he can speak Japanese fluently. Yeah, I know him.
Yeah, he's the shit. Like he's like kind of like the Japanese Fred Durst.
Taku, if you're watching,
in the best way possible. If there's a way to make that a compliment, please make it a compliment.
Takuro Tom Shibata.
Yeah,
we're saying hi to you, Takuro. You too, Risa. We're saying hi to you too.
Matt sent me a video. He's like, "Wasn't this guy in your band?" I'm like, "He was, bro. You know that's talk." I was like, "Holy shit, he's in the Japan ring right now." It was craziest,
I'll say Majide Gambatane to that idea. I love that idea, and I guess like that I can't imagine a better combination, because you're heavily influenced by pro wrestling, and of course New Japan, and then the acting background. I think those are all the elements I like, because New Japan has the realism, but there's still like the acting element.
Yeah, it feels less like entertainment, but you are entertained by the sport for sure.
Yeah.
That is most definitely it. You need commentators. We're right here. Se habla español también.
We are looking for Spanish commentators too, but I think my partner found them already, sadly. But I will let you know.
And we're on the opposite side of the country, so
on the
wrong doesn't matter because we're not doing it live. So
exactly.
That's true. You do the old Joey Styles in Paul Heyman's basement, like a week later type deal.
Yeah, exactly. We actually we're in talks with a couple of the New Japan commentators that are in Japan for the Japan broadcast, and that I really wanted to get them, but they were just a little too expensive for us. So we're going with a freelancer approach. But we found some people that have like pretty strong radio experience and are huge wrestling fans. So I think it's still going to be really good.
Cool. Oh man, definitely. I'm looking forward to it.
We are excited. Like I sent in our private DM here the link to the FITE.tv, which we're obviously going to post on our channel when this video goes up.
Thank you.
It's only $14.99. How long is that stream up after the event if you can't watch it live? Is it up for a week or is it indefinite?
My understanding, at least, there hasn't been a conversation. I assume it's going to be there forever. If not, I will definitely make it available somewhere else. From my understanding, I believe it just stays up until somebody has to take it down, which I have no plan of doing that.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's got a countdown on it. It looks like it syncs to your VPN, so if you're not sure what East Coast time and you're on the West Coast, it'll tell you exactly the time zone you're in and when to watch it there.
Oh, it does. Good. Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
it works.
it has it at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, so I'm assuming that's like 8 or 9 your time.
8 o'clock.
Doing 8 o'clock. Yep.
Yeah.
That's
Cool.
not.
So FITE TV definitely makes it really easy
Yeah.
to grab that for sure. And you spoke on the app itself. That's already up? Did you say there's already on it, or are you waiting to get that live?
No. So the app, like I said, the web portion has been created. It's not live. It hasn't. There's no content on it yet, and it's not going to be released until the iPhone and Android versions complete as well.
Okay.
But the web, so you could say it's 33% done because we have one of the 3 platforms are already ready to go. It just needs to be launched. So they told me probably about another 3 to 4 weeks, and we should have the iPhone and Android app. So then we'll have a subscription-based platform as well.
I think we can actually go back to this video when it's posted, edit, and add whatever link to that too. I think you can just go into like a Play or Apple Store, just type in whatever the name of the app is.
Yeah, that's my understanding of it is it should be like that, but it's not in there yet, so I haven't been able to test it.
No worries. I'm looking forward to that. So, Mr. Scotty, if you want to let the viewers and audiences know, where can they locate your personal social media platforms and GSW social media platforms?
Thank you. So the Instagram is @GSWPro. Twitter is @GSW_pro. The Facebook is Global Syndicate Wrestling, GSWPro.com. My personal one for Instagram is @Brandon Ascari. And that's pretty much it for now. FITE TV @GSW Inception. If you type in Global Syndicate Wrestling, for some reason it doesn't pop up. It's just GSW Inception on FITE TV. Other than that, just look as we try to take the world by storm.
That is right. I cannot wait. That's most definitely. I want to thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Ascari. I appreciate your time, and we're all looking forward of seeing the debut of Global Syndicate Wrestling. So that's right, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you guys tune in. We will put the social media platforms right below on the description, and also the FITE TV link so you guys can subscribe to it. So don't forget, February 20th, it is for the debut of Global Syndicate Wrestling Inception. So make sure you guys tune in on that. Once again, Mr. Ascari, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you all for watching, and we will see you guys next week. The host is TBS1 Ivan C. Here with Mr. MGC, Mr. Matt Steamboat, Chris Kennedy, the one and only. Saying to you guys goodbye, and we'll see you guys next week. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Take care.